What happens when two of Hollywood's most beloved stars sit down for what should be a lighthearted chat, but instead, one question spirals into an argument so intense that it ends with a guest storming off set? Today, we're breaking down the moment Kate Winslet walked off Kelly Clarkson's show after a heated clash that left the audience in stunned silence and the internet absolutely exploding. Before we get into exactly what was said that made Kate stand up and leave, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below telling us whose side you're on in this situation, because trust me, you're going to have an opinion by the end of this. The interview started exactly how you'd expect. Kelly Clarkson welcomed Kate Winslet onto the set with her signature warmth and enthusiasm, the audience erupting into applause as Kate walked out with a polite smile and a wave. They settled into their chairs, and for the first few minutes, everything seemed perfectly fine. Kelly opened with some casual questions about Kate's latest project, a period drama that had been generating serious awards buzz. Kate spoke eloquently about the research she'd done, the emotional weight of the character, and the collaborative process with the director. Kelly nodded along, asking follow-up questions that seemed to keep things flowing smoothly. But then Kelly shifted gears. She leaned forward slightly, her tone becoming more conversational, almost confiding, and said, I have to ask because I think a lot of people wonder this. You've been in the industry for decades now, and you've always been so vocal about certain issues. But I'm curious, do you ever feel like sometimes the things we say as actors, the causes we champion, do you ever worry that it can come across as, a little preachy to regular people who are just trying to get through their day? There was a beat of silence. Kate's expression didn't change dramatically, but something shifted in her eyes. She tilted her head slightly and replied, "Preachy? That's an interesting word choice, Kelly. Can you clarify what you mean by that?" Kelly, perhaps not sensing the tension building, continued with a light laugh. "I just mean, celebrities talking about issues. Sometimes I think people at home might feel like, okay, you're a millionaire living this incredible life, and you're telling me how to think about things. I'm not saying you specifically, but just in general. Do you think about that?" Kate straightened in her chair, her hands folding carefully in her lap. "Well, I suppose I'd push back on the idea that having financial success disqualifies someone from caring about humanity. Would you say the same thing to a wealthy businessman who donates to charity? Or is it specifically actors who should stay quiet?" Kelly's smile flickered slightly. No, I'm not saying you should stay quiet at all. I'm just saying there's sometimes a disconnect, right? Like when celebrities talk about climate change and then fly on private jets, or talk about inequality while living in massive estates. It just feels hypocritical to some people. The audience had gone noticeably quieter. Kate leaned forward now, her voice still measured but with a sharper edge. "So you're saying that unless someone lives in complete poverty and travels by bicycle, they have no right to advocate for a better world?" That's a convenient standard, Kelly, because it effectively silences anyone who has achieved success. Should doctors not speak about health care because they make good money? Should lawyers not discuss justice reform because they live comfortably? Kelly raised her hands in a placating gesture. "I hear you, but I think you're misunderstanding what I'm asking. I'm not trying to attack you, Kate. I'm trying to have an honest conversation about something a lot of viewers have expressed to me. They feel like Hollywood lectures them constantly, and it gets exhausting." Kate's jaw tightened. Lectures them? So speaking about human rights is lecturing? Advocating for environmental protection is lecturing? Kelly, I'm genuinely trying to understand your position here, because it sounds like you're suggesting that caring about things beyond our own immediate comfort is somehow problematic. Kelly shifted in her seat, clearly starting to feel uncomfortable but pressing forward. "I think what I'm saying is that there's a way to do it that feels authentic, and a way to do it that feels performative. And sometimes, I'm being honest here, it feels performative. It feels like people are saying things because it's trendy or because it'll get them good press, not because they genuinely care. The air in the studio had become noticeably tense. Kate's expression was now unmistakably cold. So you're questioning my sincerity. You're sitting here, on your talk show, suggesting that my decades of advocacy work, the organizations I've supported, the money I've donated, the time I've given, is all performative. Is that what you're telling me? Kelly's face flushed slightly. I'm not saying you specifically, Kate. I feel like you're taking this very personally when I'm trying to have a broader conversation about celebrity culture. Kate's voice rose slightly, her British accent becoming more pronounced with her frustration. You invited me on your show, Kelly. You're sitting across from me, asking me these questions. How exactly am I supposed to take it if not personally? You're not asking me about my work. You're not asking me about the film. You're essentially asking me to defend the fact that I care about the world, and you're framing it as if that's somehow suspicious or self-serving. Kelly took a breath, trying to regain control of the conversation. Okay, let me ask it differently. Do you think there's ever a time when celebrities should just stay out of political or social issues? Like, do you think there are topics where maybe it's better to let experts handle it rather than using your platform? Kate stared at her for a long moment. You realize you have a platform too, right, Kelly? You're asking me this question on your television show that reaches millions of people. Are you not using your platform right now? Should you stay quiet as well? Or is it only actors who should refrain from having opinions? Kelly's smile was now completely strained. I think there's a difference between hosting a show and actively campaigning for things. I'm here to entertain people, to give them a break from the heaviness of the world. Kate's eyebrows rose. A break from the heaviness of the world. So, you think entertainment and caring about the world are mutually exclusive? You can't do both? Kelly, some of the most impactful art in human history has been created specifically to shine a light on difficult truths. Should we have told artists throughout history to stop creating meaningful work because people just wanted light entertainment? Kelly was visibly flustered now. I think you're twisting what I'm saying. I'm not saying art can't have meaning. I'm saying that sometimes it feels like every single award show, every single interview, becomes this platform for political statements, and people are tired of it. They just want to enjoy a movie without feeling like they're being told they're bad people if they don't agree with every single thing an actor says. Kate's hands gripped the armrests of her chair. And there it is. People don't want to feel bad. They don't want to be uncomfortable. They want to consume their entertainment in a nice, sanitized bubble where nothing challenges them, nothing makes them think, nothing asks them to consider that maybe, just maybe, the audience was completely silent now, the tension so thick you could cut it with a knife. Kelly attempted a laugh that came out hollow. Okay, well, I think we're getting a little intense here. Maybe we should talk about something else? Kate didn't move, her eyes still locked on Kelly. No, actually, I don't think we should talk about something else. You started this conversation, Kelly, and I think it's important that we finish it. You clearly have strong opinions about actors speaking out, so let's hear them. What exactly do you want from people like me? Kelly's expression hardened slightly, her own frustration starting to show through. You know what? Fine. You want me to be completely honest? I think sometimes celebrities live in such a bubble that they don't understand how out of touch they sound. You talk about issues that affect regular people, but you experience those issues from a completely different reality. Kate's face flushed. So because I've been successful, my experiences are invalid? Because I've worked hard and built a career, suddenly I have no right to empathy? Kelly, I came from a working-class family. I know what it's like to worry about money, to watch my parents struggle. Success doesn't erase your past or your ability to connect with human suffering. Kelly leaned forward, her voice gaining strength. But that's exactly it, Kate. You came from that. Past tense. You're not in it anymore. And when you stand on a stage in expensive clothing worth more than some people make in a year and talk about inequality, can you really not see how that might feel tone deaf? Kate's voice went very quiet, which somehow made it more intense. Kelly, advocating for change is not lecturing. Raising awareness about issues is not lecturing. What you're describing is a system where only people currently suffering are allowed to talk about suffering, which is an incredibly convenient way to keep voices marginalized. Kelly shook her head. But don't you see that the platform itself is part of the problem? You get to speak because you're famous, not because you're an expert. There are people who have dedicated their entire lives to studying these issues, who have real credentials and real knowledge. But they can't get a fraction of the attention you get just by showing up and having an opinion. Kate's jaw clenched. So, your solution is that I should be silent? That I should use my platform for nothing meaningful? Should I only talk about fashion and movie premieres? Would that make you more comfortable, Kelly? Kelly's voice rose. I'm not saying be silent. I'm saying be humble. I'm saying recognize that having a platform doesn't make you right. I'm saying maybe, just maybe, consider that people are exhausted by celebrities acting like they have all the answers when most of them live in a completely different world than the rest of us. Kate stood up abruptly, and you could hear gasps from the audience. I find it fascinating, Kelly, that you're accusing me of living in a bubble while you sit here hosting a talk show, making millions, with your own massive platform, acting as if you're somehow more connected to regular people than I am. What makes your voice more valid than mine? Kelly stood as well, her face now visibly red. The difference is I'm not pretending to be something I'm not. I'm not standing on stages acting like I'm some kind of moral authority. I sing songs. I host a show. I entertain people. I'm not trying to change the world. I'm just trying to give people an hour where they can forget about their problems. Kate's laugh was sharp and bitter. And there it is. You've decided that caring about more than entertainment is pretentious. You've decided that using whatever influence you have for something beyond yourself is somehow arrogant. That's incredibly sad, Kelly. That's a very small way to live. The words hung in the air like a slap. Kelly's expression shifted from frustrated to genuinely angry. Small? You think my life is small because I don't spend every waking moment broadcasting my opinions on social issues? You think I'm less than you because I focus on making people happy instead of making them feel guilty? Kate's voice was ice cold now. I never said you were less than me, but you've spent this entire interview suggesting that I'm performative, insincere, out of touch, and preachy. You've questioned my motives, my authenticity, and my right to care about anything beyond my career. So yes, Kelly, I think the way you're framing this conversation is small. Kelly pointed at Kate, her hand shaking slightly. You know what? This right here is exactly what I'm talking about. The condescension, the superiority. You can't even have a conversation with someone who disagrees with you without acting like you're educating a child. This is why people find it exhausting. Kate's eyes narrowed. I'm condescending? Kelly, you invited me on your show and spent the entire time essentially putting me on trial for having the audacity to care about things. You've questioned everything about me except my work, which you've barely mentioned. You turned what should have been a conversation about my film into an interrogation about whether I deserve to have opinions. Kelly crossed her arms. I asked you fair questions that a lot of people have. If you can't handle being questioned, if you can't handle someone pushing back on the narrative you've built around yourself, then maybe you're not as strong as you think you are. The audience was dead silent. A few people looked genuinely uncomfortable, shifting in their seats. Kate took a slow breath, and when she spoke again, her voice was controlled but trembling slightly with anger. The narrative I've built around myself. Kelly, I've been working in this industry for over 30 years. I've raised money for charities. I've supported causes. I've used whatever influence I have to try to make some small difference. That's not a narrative. That's my life. And you sitting here suggesting it's all some kind of performance is not just insulting to me, it's insulting to every person who has genuinely tried to use their position for good. Kelly's arms remained crossed. I'm sure you believe that. But from the outside, from where regular people are sitting, it often looks different. It looks like celebrities patting themselves on the back for caring, getting praised for doing the bare minimum, while actual activists who dedicate their entire lives to these causes get ignored. Kate's hands were shaking now. The bare minimum. You think what I've done is the bare minimum. Kelly, I've worked with organizations for decades. I've donated significant amounts of money. I've used my time, my energy, my voice. But apparently, according to you, unless I've given up everything and devoted my entire existence to activism, I'm just doing the bare minimum for publicity. Kelly's voice was sharp. I'm saying that maybe the praise you get for your activism is disproportionate to what you actually do. Maybe someone who isn't famous doing the same thing wouldn't get any recognition at all, but you get lauded as some kind of hero just because you showed up. Kate took a step back, her face a mixture of hurt and fury. Showed up? You have no idea what goes on behind the scenes, Kelly. You have no idea the calls I take, the meetings I attend, the work I do that never gets publicized because I'm not doing it for recognition. But you've decided, based on your perception as a talk show host, that you understand my motivations better than I do. Kelly's voice rose again. Maybe I don't understand your motivations, Kate, but I understand optics. And the optics of wealthy celebrities lecturing people about how to live, what to think, what to care about, those optics are terrible. And instead of listening to that feedback, instead of maybe reconsidering the approach, you just get defensive and act like everyone else is the problem. Kate's voice was dangerously quiet. Is that what you think I do? Kelly, I talk about issues I care about. Kelly let out a frustrated laugh. There you go again with the condescension. Everything I say, you twist it back on me like I'm the one with the problem. Maybe I'm exhausted of feeling like if I don't perform activism the way celebrities do, if I don't constantly broadcast every charitable action, then I'm somehow a bad person. Kate shook her head slowly. I never said that. But you brought me on this show, Kelly, and you decided to use your platform to question mine. You decided to spend this time attacking the very concept of caring publicly about issues. So don't act like I'm the aggressor here. Kelly's face was flushed. I started this by asking questions that needed to be asked. You're the one who turned it into a confrontation because you can't handle anyone challenging your self-image. Kate's eyes blazed. Tell me, Kelly, what would it take for you to believe someone genuinely cares? Should I give away every penny I have? Should I live in poverty to earn the right to care about people who live in poverty? Because that's what it sounds like you're demanding. Kelly threw her hands up. I'm pointing out that there's a disconnect. You talk about climate change and probably have multiple homes. You talk about inequality while living in luxury. That's not me being cruel. That's reality. Kate's voice dropped to a fierce whisper. So, unless someone achieves absolute moral purity, they should stay silent. That standard is specifically designed to silence anyone with influence. The people with the most power to create change are never going to be perfectly pure. Kelly's jaw tightened. I'm not asking for perfection. I'm asking whether your advocacy actually helps, or whether it just makes you feel good about yourself. Kate's hands clenched into fists. You have no idea what organizations I work with, what actual tangible difference has been made. But you've already decided who I am and what my motivations are, and nothing I say is going to change your mind. Kelly stepped closer, her voice rising. I'm interested in calling out the hypocrisy that everyone else is too polite or too afraid to mention. At least I'm saying what millions of people are thinking. Kate's laugh was harsh and bitter. You're doing exactly what you're accusing me of. You're using your platform to push your own agenda and acting morally superior while doing it. Kelly's face turned bright red. At least I'm not wrapping my career in a veneer of social consciousness to make myself look better. You've built your entire brand around being the thoughtful, socially aware actress. And God forbid anyone questions whether that's genuine or whether it's just good marketing. Kate went completely still. For a moment, she just stared at Kelly, and the silence was deafening. Then, very quietly, she said, "My brand. You think caring about human rights is my brand? You think decades of supporting causes I believe in is marketing? Kelly, this has crossed a line." Kelly's voice was defiant. "I'm sorry if the truth makes you uncomfortable, Kate, but that doesn't make it any less true." Kate reached down and unclipped her microphone, her hands moving with deliberate precision. The small gesture sent a wave of shocked murmurs through the audience. Kelly's eyes widened slightly. "What are you doing?" Kate looked up at her, something cold and final in her expression. "I'm leaving, Kelly. I came here to talk about my work, to have a conversation about the film I've poured my heart into, and instead, you ambushed me with your personal grievances about celebrity activism. You've insulted me, questioned my integrity, dismissed my life's work, and suggested that everything I do is performative and insincere. I don't need to stand here and take this." Kelly's defiance faltered. "Kate, come on, we're in the middle of an interview. You can't just walk off." Kate placed her microphone on the chair behind her. "Watch me. You wanted honesty, Kelly? Here's some honesty. This has been one of the most disrespectful, mean-spirited interviews I've ever participated in. You didn't bring me here for a conversation, you brought me here to attack me. And I'm not going to sit here and be your punching bag so you can prove whatever point you're trying to make." Kelly's voice had a pleading edge now. "I wasn't attacking you. I was asking legitimate questions that people want answered." Kate's eyes flashed. "No, you were projecting your own issues onto me. You were using me as a stand-in for every celebrity you resent, every person with a platform who makes you feel inadequate because they choose to use that platform for something you consider pretentious. This was never about legitimate questions, Kelly. This was about you needing to feel superior by tearing someone else down." The audience was completely frozen, some people with their hands over their mouths in shock. Kate continued, her voice steady but filled with barely contained emotion. "You know what the saddest part is? You could have used this conversation to actually explore these issues in a thoughtful way. We could have talked about the complexities of advocacy, about the challenges of using privilege responsibly. But instead, you chose hostility. You chose judgment. You chose to make this personal." Kelly found her voice again, but it was shaky. "I think you're overreacting. We were having a difficult conversation, but that doesn't mean you need to storm off." Kate's expression was pure steel. "I'm not overreacting, Kelly. I'm responding appropriately to being treated with disrespect on national television. You wanted to know if I ever worry about seeming preachy? Here's what I worry about. I worry about people like you who are so cynical, so bitter, that you can't imagine someone genuinely caring about anything beyond themselves. I worry that we've become so afraid of seeming earnest that we've lost the ability to believe in anything at all." Kelly's hands were shaking now. "That's not fair. You're twisting everything I said." Kate picked up her bag from beside the chair. "I'm not twisting anything. I should have told you 20 minutes ago, when you started this line of questioning, that your questions were inappropriate and hostile. But I tried to engage in good faith. I tried to answer honestly, and you took that as an invitation to go even harder. So yes, Kelly, I'm leaving. And I hope the next person you invite on your show is treated with more respect than I was." Kelly's voice rose desperately. "Kate, please, just sit back down. We can move on. We can talk about the film." Kate was already walking toward the side of the stage. She paused and looked back over her shoulder. "You had 45 minutes to talk about the film, Kelly. You chose to spend it attacking me instead. That was your choice. This is mine." And with that, she walked off the stage, leaving Kelly standing there alone, the audience silent and stunned, cameras still rolling. Kelly stood frozen for a long moment, her face cycling through emotions: shock, anger, embarrassment, defensiveness. Finally, she turned to the cameras and tried to compose herself, but her voice was unsteady. "Well, that was unexpected. "We're going to take a quick break." She trailed off, clearly unsure how to proceed. So there you have it. A conversation that started with a seemingly simple question about celebrity activism spiraled into one of the most intense, uncomfortable, and ultimately explosive interviews in recent talk show history. The question everyone's asking now is, who was in the right? Was Kelly justified in pushing these questions, in challenging Kate's activism and motives? Or did she cross a line, turning what should have been a promotional interview into a personal attack? Was Kate right to walk off? To refuse to continue engaging with questions she found disrespectful? Or should she have stayed and tried to find common ground? Maybe both of them had valid points buried under the frustration and anger. Maybe this is just what happens when two strong personalities with very different worldviews collide in a high-pressure situation with cameras rolling. Whatever your take is on what went down, one thing is certain: this interview gave us something raw and real, a genuine conflict playing out without the usual polish keeping everything smooth. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and drop a comment below telling us, do you think Kate was right to walk off the show? Or should she have stayed and finished the interview? Let us know where you stand.